And we are live. Hello, everybody. I'm surprised we all actually have made it for the finale of the series that is Bardsberry's Book Club. We are here to discuss the final book that has been written so far in the Grishaverse, which is Rule of Wolves. I'm Paige. This is my channel that you're on, and we usually start by introducing ourselves and giving our ratings. So for this book, right now, it's feeling like a 3.5, and that is me being generous. I was actually going to give it a 3, but I think after I think about it some more, it'll be a 3.5 for me.
I'm Maureen, and I gave it a 5 when I read it. I loved it. So
I'm Dulcie, and I also would give it a 5, very solidly.
I'm Anais. I would probably give it. Some time has passed. I think if you talked to me when I finished it immediately, I would have said a 5, and I think now I'm at a 4.5.
Solid.
I'm Hannah. I literally finished it at like 5 a.m. In my feels, it's like a 4. In my brain, it's more of a 3.5. So,
well, guys, I'm Kira, and I would probably give it, I think, somewhere between like a 4 and 4.5, or 4.5.
Hannah, it's your turn to give the little synopsis before we get into why we've given these ratings.
I had to write it down because I knew I would not be able to do this if I didn't do that. So, Rule of Wolves, we open with intro to Maki, who is the big bad of Shuhan, apparently. She's the queen who's been crowned at some point in the recent past. She just got a wedding invite to a royal wedding at Ravka. I was going to say vodka. In Ravka. And as she's considering all of this and all her nefarious plans, a weird shadow thing takes over part of Shuhan, including killing her niece, who she is the only person that she loves, basically. And then we jump over to Ravka, where there's those weird shadow things happening. They call them blights. Some people call them vampire. I don't know. Some weird stuff is happening. People are trying to figure that out. But at the same time, the Fjerdans are attacking. And basically, the first attack is kind of halted by Nikolai and the Zemini using kind of landmines and the Perem antidote, which has been found and like figured out and everything. And then we jump over to Nina in Fjerda being a spy and creating like mythology around the Grisha and the saints and stuff. And her mission is basically to get the letters that prove that Nikolai is not a Lantsov. And somehow they decide that in order to do this, Hannah's going to enter like the Fjerdan bachelor, basically, to get close to like the Lantsov pretender, I think. And then as she's doing that, she ends up saving the prince and kind of getting close to the prince. He seems like he might be a cool, chill dude, but we'll see about that. Back in Ravka, Zoya and Nikolai are trying to recruit the Darkling, basically to help them fix the blight. They are not happy about this, but they're like, we need to fix this. And he's like, fine, I know a way, but you guys got to take me to Alina. At which point I wrote down the audacity in the book. They end up deciding, sure, Zoya will take him to meet Alina at some like distant location. But as they get there, they realize it's a trap, and he basically kind of wanted to use Alina and Mal's amplifier powers to get his powers back. Meanwhile, Maki's arrived for the royal wedding, which turns out to be a ruse to draw her out of Shuhan, while Tamar, her sister, who was pretending to be the guard in the previous book, and the lady who was pretending to be the princess, they're going back to basically expose Maki to the rest of Shuhan. And the wedding is actually David and Jenia's wedding, which was beautiful and amazing. And then Leigh Bardugo ruins it all by murdering everyone because the Fjerdans decide to bomb Osalta and a bunch of other places. And David dies. Sad. In Fjerda, Nina's doing more spy stuff. She finds and then loses Nikolai's dad. And then discovered that Erasmus, the prince, is actually a little shit. And he's not going to actually help them. But at the same time, she also almost blows her cover when she finds Matthias's murderer and kind of has a meltdown about that. Meanwhile, back in Ravka, Nikolai needs titanium to build these massive weapons. his titanium has been blown to smithereens by the Fjordans when they bombed everything. So they decide, oh, we need to steal something. There's only one person in the Grishaverse who can steal anything. Let's go find Kaz in Ketterdam. So they go to Ketterdam. Kaz and the Jesper and Wylan help them. They discover Zoya Asuli, steal a little bit of titanium, not that much, but enough to kind of get by. And then back in Shuhan, Tamar and co succeed kind of at finding and shutting down the Cure Good program, despite Mackie's best efforts. They forge a somewhat truce with the Shuhan, but basically the Shuhan are like, we're not going to help you fight Fjerda. We're not going to help the Fjerdans, but we're going to just kind of watch from the sidelines. But they do say, okay, fine, you can take the Cure Good because they're not supposed to exist anyways. Take them and go fight with them. And then we're at the final battle. And basically, I summarize this by Zoya saves everyone's ass at every point, basically. The Fjordans try to attack from the coast, but Zoya kind of lightning fries them. Saves Nina from the apparat, becomes a dragon just in time to save Nikolai and the rest of the Ravkans who were being slaughtered despite the missiles and the help from the Darkling, who kind of is like, I'll help you out for a little bit because I want to feel useful. And then finally, everyone has a big meeting to decide what's going to happen, where Nikolai is like, yeah, I'm a bastard. I don't care. Also, Zoya should be queen, which everyone eventually kind of agrees with. And then fast forward, they've somehow again found the Darkling and caught him. And he's like, fine, this time I'll actually lead you to the solution to the Blights. And he takes them to this ancient tree guarded by a bunch of ancient fabricators who tell them that the only way to stop the Blight is for someone to like stitch the world together, and that person has to stay there forever. And then they're like, who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? The Darkling's like, I'm here. I want to do it as long as you make me a saint. And he does it. And we basically end with the potential also for another heist to find some old dude's heart. So that's kind of like a very, very, very like brief summary.
That's a solid summary. Solid.
Yeah, you did a great job.
But I'm like, this is a long book. We're going to get into it when we talk. So yeah.
A lot heavy.
You saying that made me remember because I was talking to Anais and our other roommate about like the one part where I was trying to remember what was the one part besides like discovering, it's obviously going to be spoilers for people who are watching this, like when we discover that the prince is actually not the prince, like when I began to realize, oh wait, I was like, oh, I like that twist. But then also it was the moment where we discover that the prince's guard was the one who killed Matthias. That was the other twist that I was like, that was impeccable, that was so well done. So those are like the two highlights of this.
Sorry, I skipped your two highlights. They are really great moments, but in terms of the big plot points, I'm like,
you describing the Zoya bit made me realize, okay, so we can get into like why we rated it the way we rated it, but I've realized it's because Leigh's so good at setup and like building all these problems and building this world, but the way she closes everything up, it's always a problem for me. Like the way she ended the first trilogy and the way she ended this, I'm like, endings are not your strong point, and like the way you end them is just not satisfying to me because it's too neat and too nice and too happy, which that just says who I am as a person, that this book was just too happy for me, even though so many people died, but there was never stakes for like the main people, but minus David, who I wasn't super attached to. Like,
oh my god, rude, but okay. I was so
sad
sad
for everyone, sure, but like I wasn't personally like attached to David as a character, so his death didn't like emotionally devastate me in any way.
I mean, I wasn't emotionally devastated, but I was very surprised because I was so sure that Tamar or Tolia were gonna die. I was like, you keep talking about twins and how important twins are, and I just know that means one of them is gonna die. And then when they sent Tamar away, I was like, oh, it's gonna be Tamar. And she's gonna die.
I was emotionally oh, sorry.
They're just like they're like self-sacrificial, those two.
Yeah, and I was just like, one of them is gonna. I wasn't happy about it, but I was like, okay, like she keeps dropping the hints. I'm preparing myself, and then the wedding happened. At the wedding though, that's when I was like, wait a minute, maybe not Tamar and Tolia, but I didn't think she'd do it, and then she did it. Anyways,
I was emotionally devastated. I don't know. I was sad. I cried a lot at David's death because he's just like the pure one. Like I may not be as attached to him, but he is like so pure in like all of his intentions. Like he was that person for all of them. So I was like, I cry.
Also, then like all of the stuff at the funeral where they were like, why have we lost one more person? We keep losing people. Like, I thought this was over. Like, how much more do we have to endure? Like, all that stuff after made me really sad too. Like, I was sad about David, but it was like the way that they were processing it and the way that they were like, wow, we're like right back where we were. Fuck this. Fuck everything. Nothing's ever going to be good ever again. It's like, oh no.
Yeah.
I think
Anna,
that part of it was like the people, like all the people that Zoya was talking about, like for her garden, they all died in the previous series. It wasn't this like series, so it felt like the danger. That's why I was like, never thought like anybody like from the main core group was gonna die, despite them being in all these battles, despite them not having the odds in their favor. I knew it was gonna end happily because it just felt like the series had no teeth anymore, the way it did in like previous books, where like we were so like high stakes with everything, like with the crows, with like even though Alina and them, like everything ended so happily, you felt like there was danger there at some points for them because you didn't know how it was going to end. But this series I was just like, you're all going to be fine. I thought maybe she would like maybe do something to somebody important, like big in the series, and she didn't. I was just like, okay.
The series was kind of almost like, because I think a lot of it is, that's what I was thinking, is like in terms of loss, like if you're comparing book 3 from the original trilogy and this book, that a lot of named characters, people that we cared about, died in that trilogy. But in this one, I feel like we're kind of dealing a lot with the ramifications, because a lot of the character motivations, and especially with Zoya, I think, like she's just obsessed with like not letting anybody die. And then when she loses the Darkling and has that moment of like she just kind of almost loses her mind, and then she goes home and David's dead. She's like, what the fuck? I hate this. So I kind of get why not more people died, but I understand what you mean about, I feel like if any one more person died, I don't think Zoya would have made it. Like, I just don't think she would have.
Yeah, that's
like,
fair.
If any of the core people died, like maybe Tolia, but even that, I don't know.
Yeah, I just feel like, because I was just thinking, like, you saying that it was like the second book of that trilogy, the OG trilogy. Literally everybody, it was a fucking bloodbath, and this time there wasn't really anything like that. It was just like people we didn't know. It was just like soldiers from the Ravkan army died, and a lot of them did, and we just didn't know any of them. So it felt very removed. It didn't feel like, oh, this is a big battle, we should be worried, because you knew they would win at the end of the day.
How do you guys feel about the I feel like there were kind of 3 storylines that we were following, like the Fjerda, the Shu, and the Ravkan like settings. How did you guys feel about the way that those 3 storylines kind of were told and intersected?
I feel like the Nina parts were honestly like a separate book. Like they did interact, but like that part especially felt very separate from everything happening. Like you had her spying on stuff, and like obviously that was like the tie to like the Fjerdans coming into Ravka, but it felt so separate and so different from the other parts. I was fine with it, but it did feel like very different for me.
I liked it a lot more this time than the last book. Because in the last book, it literally, I was like, I don't want this part. It shouldn't belong. Like, it shouldn't be here. This time, there were more like ties, I feel like, and connections. And when you realize that she saw the bomb targets, she saw them and was so focused on getting the letters and getting out of there, which I didn't even notice that she got the letters. I don't know if I just missed that, but I didn't even realize that she got the letters until she said she got the letters later, which I was like,
I felt the same thing, Hannah. I was
right. Okay.
That not that it confused me, but I feel like that whole like scene unraveled like super quickly, and like I didn't remember reading the sentence of her like getting the letters, putting it in a pocket, or hiding them or anything. And then later they were like, oh yeah, good thing she got the letters. I'm like,
she burnt them. She used a special thing given to her by a gardener, 3 drops, and it burnt what was inside of the safe, which we assumed was the letters, but it was never like officially confirmed.
That's why we needed to listen to the audiobook. I feel like I miss things like that when I'm reading physically because I like just skip.
So I read it, but I thought she was unlocking it.
Yeah,
I thought that's what she was doing, because that's
she
what
couldn't unlock
Kaz
it, so she just burnt, because you wouldn't be able to see the hole, so he wouldn't have known until he opened the safe that everything inside was burnt to a crisp. Yeah,
I missed that completely. I was like, when the hell did she grab the letters? Like, I don't remember, because I think we were because Nikolai's dad thing happened right at that point, and we were just like, oh, that's cool, okay, and you're just gonna walk away and leave him. I mean, I get why, but also
Nikolai and his dad, that scene, really good. Really love that scene too.
That could have
was
been like
highlight.
a fucking chapter. I feel
Okay,
like that could have been
so-
like a whole thing, and it wasn't.
Mhm.
But it could have been, and I wanted it to be.
And I had a moment when I was like, what if Nikolai ditched Ravka and became the Fjerdan king? Because fucking dude is more Fjerdan than he is Ravkan. And then I was like, no, they wouldn't do it. But I was like, but maybe like he could, I don't know, could he do that? Because then like Zoya could be queen here, and then he could be queen in Fjerda, which actually would make more sense because his mother is Fjerda and his dad is Fjerda. So anyways, but yeah, that scene was really good. And I kind of wish we also got a scene with his sister. We didn't, but I was like, I kind of want to hang out with this family a bit more than the others.
Well, like the 3 seconds of his sister at the end. That was not.
We didn't even get any with her. We just heard about her being there.
Did not
Yeah.
pass the test.
No.
If we're talking about scenes we just like in general, I really like that Zoya, Alina, and Jenya were the ones to decide what they were going to do with the Darkling. That was like a really great scene, even though I feel like it was very like Leigh was like, I'm going to tell you what happened to them and you're going to remember this time.
Yeah.
But I liked it. It was like, they were like, you guys, you make like, they were the ones that made the decision. Like, even though at that point, obviously, well, at that point was Zoya like queen?
Yeah.
Okay. My brain, it's been many months since I read this book, but I like that she was like, this has to be like a group decision. It can't just be like me. It has to be all of us.
Yeah.
There were like so many of those. There was a lot of scenes that felt like they were just like very pure friendship scenes, and just like with people talking about like how important these relationships are in a platonic sense, and like seeing them on the page was so satisfying. So like, yeah, anytime those 3 women were in a scene together, and like anytime Zoe was talking about other like important women in her life, it was just it was so good to like to see.
Yeah, I will say this book gave me the storyline with Zoya that I kind of wanted with Alina in the last, like, I think that's part of why I'm like in my feels this is like high rated, because it's what I wanted from Shadow and Bone trilogy. I just wanted her to be all powerful and I just wanted her to rule everything. And I was like, damn it, Alina, I know that's not what you want, but that's what I want for you. And I accept now that perhaps it wasn't Alina's journey, it was Zoya's journey.
That's actually like something someone I know has brought up like a couple times, like saying that like when they first read the trilogy, they wanted like basically Zoya's journey for Alina, and then rereading it, they're like, no, that's not Alina. Alina doesn't want that. Alina doesn't like want that for herself. But that's like a very Zoya move to be like, I'm gonna be a dragon.
Yeah. No, yeah. That part I think was done quite, and I will say, I think Zoya's storyline is the most solid storyline in the whole book. So I feel like it was kind of written like that was the story, and everyone else kind of got a little jammed in there. And I do feel like some of the other storylines did get a little, like, get the short end of the stick a little bit. Particularly, I'm happy for Nina and Hannah. I want them to be together. I don't know how I feel about the fact that they now have to live their lives pretending to be like this awful, awful person, Rasmus, and his like concubine girl that he met. Like, I'm just like, how are you going to pass that through the like, I just don't. And I mean, I don't know. And I also don't love that for Nina. I know that Hannah's more happy this way, like with that appearance, but Nina always liked how she looked and who she is. And I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I thought it was a bit odd that like they were going to compromise on like Nina's outward appearance, because throughout both books, it's like this common thing that Nina's constantly talking about, where she's like, oh, I'm in this body and I keep forgetting, and it's like not my face. And it's like, you see the dysphoria, and she like talks about the dysphoria she like faces being in this like Fjerdan looking body. So the fact that like you're kind of ending this book with the like idea that this is like foreseeable future for, or like foreseeable forever for Nina, feels a bit like weird, I guess.
Even just like the messaging of like she has literally changed her entire appearance for the person that she loves. Like that just feels kind of, especially because like Nina's whole thing in the first like duology was like, I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about me. Like I'm so confident in who I am, like in the way I look, despite what other people may assume. It just like I was like, I'm happy that Nina's happy, like personally with her as a character, but I was unsatisfied narratively by her arc in this duology.
Also, especially since like the whole thing with Hannah's like, oh, this I feel like the importance of how she looks and how that makes her feel for Hannah, and why doesn't Nina get the same? Like I'm happy for Hannah, but I also don't think Hannah wants to look like Rasmus specifically. I think she just feels better in a more masculine body, and she could have that without being this awful, awful person who is just terrible and who I hate. Like,
I mean, I think like I thought it was a really like nice, convenient way for Hannah to be more like comfortable in her body, or in their body, and also to get rid of freaking Rasmus, like the real evil little shit, as Paige mentioned earlier. But I feel like I ended it more so like, I mean, you made all really great points about Nina, but I guess I ended it where I was like, oh, maybe in like a future storyline they'll figure out a way for her to like come back to her own
I
body.
hope so.
I like didn't really see it as like this was the end forever, but I mean it's a good point because we don't know about a future next book, so
yeah, I hope that's where what ends up I mean, I don't know what we're gonna get another book or whatever, but you know, it just felt weird to end it that way. And like when they mentioned that they were at the coronation or whatever, and everyone was like, oh yeah, and his new fiance, no one's question, like I don't buy that for a second. But after all the stuff that they had to tiptoe around while they were in Fjerda, that he would just decide, yes, this is my fiance now, and everyone would be cool with it. Although I will say I did love that dude tried his luck with Hannah, and she was like, crush your heart, don't try me ever again. And like she didn't even mean to, she just killed him because he was like an asshole. And I love that part. I was like, yes, because the whole scene with Joran whatever his name is, in the forest was like, okay, like I don't love this.
That's something I didn't think about, but that makes sense to me. But I didn't even really see it though as like, I kind of felt like it was less of a suspended disbelief for like, oh, this is like his new person, because everyone hated him so much and wanted nothing to do with him and just wanted him like happy and placated and like whatever, you just do you, that I don't think they question anything because they just don't care about him in any way. They're just like, as long as you're happy and are not making our lives miserable, we'll do whatever you want to do.
But he's still like the crown prince though. Like it wasn't that they like were scared of him. Nobody knew he was a little shit except for his bodyguard who he abused. Like everyone else just thought he was a weakling prince is what he did.
But that's the point. Right.
Yeah, but it was just like I just didn't like, I agree with Akana and like he's the crown prince and he's marrying a woman who's already been married, according to everyone else, because like her whole like character was she was a fishmonger's like wife and the fishmonger died. It just felt like kind of like the end was just too convenient. I was like, okay, like
and
they're happy and they're royalty now, I guess.
When she was worried about them finding out, she's like, oh, if they ask about me, that's okay. If they just follow like the story, that's fine. But if they ask anyone who knew Mila, they'd be like, oh no, she's in, where did she go? She went somewhere.
She went to Novi.
And now, like, do you really think that she's gonna become the future queen and no one's gonna try to figure that out? Like, look at the lengths they went to with Nikolai, who was not even the Fjerdan king or anything. Like, he's like some other guy.
Especially because they could like introduce her like looking like herself, just like as like some diplomat coming to visit Fjerda.
Okay, but the only problem with that is like how many of the like army know who she is.
True.
Like, obviously,
she could just kill them off. Whatever, we'll just kill anybody who recognizes her. I need some bloodshed, y'all.
The other thing too is if they waited, I was thinking about like, oh, maybe they'll wait for like a lot of people, like obviously like Jarl and like whatever Driskelle know like what she looks like, but then she's gonna be old.
that's the other part that I didn't like about the Nina storyline, is that I really was waiting for the moment when he finds out who she is. Like, I was like, I can't wait for you to reveal that you played him all along and that you like infiltrated his house, stole his dog. Like, just, I wanted so badly to see that scene, and that we didn't get it. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm a little upset about that.
I agree, but also I think that it is part of Nina's arc and journey that like she has been so motivated by revenge like her whole life, and like especially after Matthias, she's like so motivated by revenge that her journey is to not be motivated by that anymore and not to need that moment, and instead to choose Hannah and to choose her instead of having that moment, because she could have had that moment like way early on.
That's
if
true.
She didn't care so much about Hannah.
But I want. Okay,
like,
so what if, she doesn't have to.
I also want it, but I know why it didn't happen.
This Hannah wants.
Fair. Okay, listen, she doesn't have to rub it in his face, but what if he accidentally found out? Like, I just wanted a scene of him finding out. She doesn't have to be like, by the way, I did all this, but I wanted a scene where he somehow finds out that, like, she stole his, like, fake son that he never had before, and then she came and stole his real daughter. I'm like, I'm just petty, and I just need that kind of, I just wanted to see it, and I'm like, okay, fine. Or to see him die, one or the other. Like, I'm just like, give me one thing. So that part of Nina's storyline, I get it, but also I'm like, I wanted a little bit of satisfaction.
What did we think about Nikolai's storyline in this? He was a character. He wasn't the main character. This is Zoya's book, but like he still had like a major arc. I don't know. Like he was just at peace with his demon, literally. So
I was obsessed with him simping the whole book.
The whole book.
Good. I'm like, good. Yeah,
you should.
Should be. Love this. Yeah. That was working for me. The demon, like, I feel like, considering how the demon was the entire plot of the book that preceded this, the fact that he's like, we're chilling now, we're besties. I was like, okay, this is all right. Easy. Like that seemed a little too easy in my opinion. I feel like the only like obstacle that they like wrote into it was the fact that like people weren't gonna accept him, or he was gonna be seen as like too close to the Darkling, or like it was gonna like worsen his standing within.
But then he was like, screw all that. I don't care.
And then it was fine. And the demon,
I kind of don't mind that the demon and him are like all chill now, because I feel like at the end of the first book, they went through that whole ordeal, and I'm like, and we got wet out of it. Like, and then we didn't get Zoya being the dragon until the end of the book. So I'm like, at least that one thing came out of that whole ordeal, is that Nikolai and the demon are like, okay, we're good, we're friends now. Like that's like, I don't know, I didn't mind that because of that. I liked the part when Nikolai was being like, why do I even like that was kind of a thread a little bit throughout the whole book. Is like, why the hell do I even want to be king anymore? This is not fun. I was like, right, dude, get back on your ship. Why are you like, it's fine, it's chill, you don't have to be king.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I really liked how he was like, who the fuck am I? What do I want out of this too? Like, I thought that Leigh did a really good job of like going into his sort of feelings about like his motivations. Like, am I just being power hungry? Is this a problem that I'm like fighting so hard for this? Like, what should I do with my life? Like, is it a problem that I want to be like Sturmond and I just want to like go beyond my ship? Like, I liked that he took so much time to examine that and then like found an answer that like worked for him, but that still like kind of surprised me. Like, probably should have seen it coming, but I didn't. So
I love that he both gave up his throne and was still going to be king regardless because he's marrying Zoya. Like, that is such a Nikolai move.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be...
He's not a king.
Okay, but he's still going to be, like, helping with the throne. Like, regardless. He's still going to be in a position of power, and he gets to have his ship and go do shit as well. Like, that is the perfect move for him. And, like, I was not surprised by that at all.
They kind of get like a role reversal because obviously Zoya's going to be like, yeah, go be like the head of the Navy and go be like this privateer on a little boat, like goodbye. And she's going to be in charge. And it's
Go have all your little boats and play.
So go with your little boat. Yeah.
And
I
didn't
kind of
someone
like
say this too in the book? Weren't they like fucking Nikolai? Like someone said this. And
I
was
think
like,
it was
Thank you.
Jenya.
Jenya,
So it was like, of course he would find a way to still be a prince. Like, I kind of like the mirror between him and the Darkling in this way, which I know, Paige, you keep mentioning that they're like kind of, and I like that he was also like, he literally said it in the book, like when he was thinking, he's like, just like the Darkling thinks he's the, like, why do I think I'm the only, like, you know, and then he's like, maybe I'm not. And you see one person learning while the other's like, yeah, I'm going to die and suffer, but I'm going to be a saint. Like,
okay, what do we think of the Darkling? Can we talk about the Darkling being...
The Darkling's journey made me laugh so much because it was like, these are my followers? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? He was like, we're going to go into battle and we're going to be the best ones there. And then they get there and he's like, I have made a terrible mistake. I loved it because it was like almost like after him being the big bad in the books and like having his journey as the big bad to kind of be like this role in this book. I loved it. I think it's so funny. I just love him like thinking like he's gonna get one thing out of like coming back and having followers, and it is not that at all.
No. I love that. Basically, I think the only reason Leigh brought him back is to make the point that she doesn't think people got in the trilogy. She just really wanted to hammer down that point that he is a bad person. This is not a good guy. You should not be rooting for him. And
Especially...
I just loved his internal monologue. I just was dying the entire time.
No, I think she gave him way more of a redemption arc than that, though.
No, but
Really?
like, you know, she was like, at the end when he's getting like the thorn thing, he's like, I don't regret anything I did. Like, really hammering it home that he has no regrets about being evil. He's like, I did this bad things. I killed 1,000 people, and I have no regrets. And he just dies. It was so wild.
My takeaway from the book is that the Darkling is like a huge drama queen. Like, just loves the drama. Like,
So
he wants the most dramatic things. Like, if I want to meet Alina and Mal again, and then like, you know, huge spectacle. Like, there's freaking like sun summoners everywhere, and he gets away, and just like he's so cryptic. And then all the stuff with his like followers and like kind of being on the outside of the battle the entire time, but then like looking for his moment to become like the hero. He's just a huge drama queen.
Was that TikTok sound about the drama? That's the Darkling throughout the entire book.
But
I don't think I'm the drama.
I agree. It leads like truly just brought him back to be like, no, let's make sure you know what I was trying to say in the original trilogy. But I feel like this is the moment to talk about this Twitter handle that I will send to all of you called Tree Alexander. That was started right around the time of this book coming out. It's so funny. So I sent Dulce so many tweets. One of them is, what is a tree if not me persevering? And then there's this picture of Ben and it says happier days before I was eaten by the tree. But it's still going. Like, it's all like, this is
it was like,
can you see the family resemblance?
Oh my god. I cannot.
Someone like this, like the account was created like 2 days after the book came out.
Yes, like 2 days. It's been, and it's still going. Like, they're still posting all the time.
I think there was one where it was like, I am become a tree.
It's so good. The handle is Darkling Tree.
Yes, please put it on what, I don't know if you can comment actually, but on
I'll just go mute and comment.
I feel like he was basically comedic relief this whole book. Like, that's kind of the vibe that I got from the Darkling as I was reading this book, because it was just like, and that's why I'm like, I'm not sure that we didn't need him, and we didn't need the whole Blight storyline. I feel like Leigh just brought all that back because she needed to make a point. And a part of me is a little like, it's funny and I'm enjoying it in that way, but a part of me is like, okay, like, you know, did we really need that bit of that whole bit?
The Blight bit, and like also like the open ending. I was telling like Jess, like when she was leaving earlier, I was like, can you believe the Darkling, if there is another Six of Crows book, the Darkling's part of that fucking book too? Like, he just exists forever now. He's just forever part of the series. The man cannot die. I appreciate it, though. I like that he's just vain
gets
and
what he
just wants
wants.
to be a saint. Like, I love it at this point. I don't think it worked. I don't think Leigh, like, did it so it works, because I just think he's funny now. I think I'm like, I want the Darkling to come back because he's just jokes at this point.
But like,
I
how is
don't
that gonna? Sorry, go ahead, Kira.
I was just gonna say, I feel like it's like a little unfair because we're getting like so much grief through this book, especially from like Zoya, and talking about like how horrible like the Darkling was, especially with her and Jenya, and like legitimately ruined their childhoods, and like especially for Jenya, like the like all the things that he did to her as like a literal child, and then also as she grew up, and like to the other Grisha that he was supposed to be responsible for. It almost felt like a little like reductive and a little bit like, I don't know, it was like upsetting to see him come back as this like light, like comical, like relief when like these people that we're so attached to, the characters we're so attached to, are still like really grieving, like really processing their trauma, and like trying to, yeah, like literally just like live despite everything that happened. I felt like was a bit of a weird misread or like miswrite in terms of like, I get what she was trying to do by like making him more comical and like reducing him to this like kind of like silly vain character. But at the same time, I'm like, it really undercuts all these like emotions you're writing in for all your other characters and all this processing that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
It like felt in conflict with each other.
Like, I didn't think that his storyline was very funny when I was reading it. It's only kind of after where I was like, oh, okay, so nothing happened and you're just an idiot and a drama queen, whatever. I liked that, like, bringing him back gave us, like, Jenya's speech at the very end when he was going into the tree. Like, that was really good. And I thought that, like, giving those characters a chance to kind of find some closure with him was really great. But I wished that she had just put like a little bit more effort into that storyline, because I wanted it to mean something. Like, I'm glad that it meant something to those characters, but I was like, oh, so you just brought him back for him to like fuck around for a bit, and then they kind of healed, and I'm glad they healed. But I don't know, it was like, he's supposed to be the biggest bad, like someone said earlier, and I just wish that there had been more at stake with him being back. But on the flip side of that, I'm glad that he didn't take up too much narrative time, because like I was so much more interested in what was going on with everybody else.
I think,
and it goes back. Oh, go ahead, Dulcie. Go ahead.
Just, I think for me, like, I also was in a similar place as Kira, just like kind of upset that he was back, that like we lost all of these people along the way, and he just gets to come back like scot-free and like looking younger than ever, and like but then for me, like, the payoff was that scene at the very end when he's gonna go in the tree, and then like Jenya really gets that moment to just be like, I think that was a point for Jenya to like forgive herself for a lot of things that she did because of him, and also to like really acknowledge the like pain and abuse that she like was dealt at the hand of him, but also in a way that was like acknowledging it, but she was like, I don't forgive you, and you don't really get to have that, like, that full, you don't get the satisfaction of that as you try and become a saint now. Like, you're still a horrible dude.
Yeah, like, I was annoyed in the first book when he came back, because I was like, why do we keep bringing back the same fucking villain? And then, like, he's not really a point in this book. Like, his chapters are so boring to me. I fell asleep through some of them when I was listening today. I will not lie. But I think the dissonance is something that happened in the first book too, because Nina's story was so much more serious than what was happening with the saint section of the book in book one, that I just feel like there's always this dissonance. Like, she's trying to do too much with all the different characters. They all have different stories, which is good, because you like, each character has a story. They are going through their own separate arcs, but it's like at the expense of certain plot points that she has to focus on, because that's the main overall arc of the duology.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing here is her trying to bring the vibes of the trilogy and the Six of Crows duology and kind of combine them, and they don't mesh. I don't think, because in the like, when you think about the Darkling in the like trilogy and the way that went, they didn't really I remember when we were talking about the trilogy, we're like, the politics, nobody cares about these military, nobody's talking about that. Shouldn't that be important? And Leigh was like, no, we don't care about that. And then we went into Ketterdam and Six of Crows, and then there was a lot more about all of that nitty gritty life stuff. And now we're back in Ravka, and it's I think she's trying to combine both of them. And with certain characters, as I said, it worked. With certain characters, it's okay, the payoff was Zoya. Let's be real, with Zoya, the payoff worked, and the magic and the politics and all of that stuff, I think, worked together really well. But then with the overall story, I don't think it worked. Because one of the other things that I wanted us to talk about is the shoe and that whole. I just feel I was kind of at the end of the first chapter, when I realized that what Leigh was saying is that Maki is the reason the Shuhan are terrible to the Grisha, basically. Kind of. I was like, really? So it all comes down to one person? All of the terror and all of the I don't know. I just feel that's a bit reductive as well. And so I feel there's some things where it comes to the magic and the politics that just is not meshing well for some reason. And I don't know how you would fix that, if it can be fixed. I mean, at this point it can't because the books are out. But I don't know, there's a bit of a disconnect there for me as well. Luckily, I was just having a grand old time and laughing about it because whatever, I don't care. But if I that's what I mean when I say my heart, I enjoyed it. My brain is this is weird. This is not quite working. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that made sense.
Yeah, I can't remember. I don't know what it was exactly about those chapters that something felt like it was missing for me, whereas I should be a lot more invested. But also I think as part of it was when I was reading and seeing that Leigh was using different names, but it was still a pan-Asian, all Asians mushed together to be the Shuhan. When I read the different names and you're oh, this is a South Asian name, this is an East Asian name, being trying to fix and show they're all there under one country. I was sort of the world building there just fell off the first chapter that we read from Maki's perspective. And also I know nothing more about the Shuhan. I know about their specific royal family and the people who protect them, but that's it. No cultural building, even though we literally have a perspective. And I sort of felt that was missing, minus the twin thing. That was the one addition that we learned a little bit more about.
And totally the pan-Asian-ness of it, I was what? It's not vibing at all. I thought it was a weird way to.
Also, there was a part that when Nikolai was talking about them coming, the Shuhan delegation coming, when he's oh, we gotta protect them because our people are racist. Basically, he says something like that, and I was even though we haven't been at war with the Shu for ages, our people are still racist, and meanwhile they're at war with Fierda right now, and your people aren't. I'm that. I just don't understand what you're trying to do there, and I don't think it's just the race stuff keeps I'm you're not getting it. Because okay, so you're basically saying it's a race thing, but you don't want to say it's a race thing, yet people are still holding grudges about a war with the Shu that was done that was from years ago. Meanwhile, Fierdans can come in to Ravka and nobody would care.
You know what I just realized? What? So I was thinking about the Zoya being Ravkan passing, which is the whole thing, and I was oh my god, okay, this is happening. And I was thinking about the first trilogy just now when you were talking, and how Alina and Mal put on Suli accents, and I was just so they were actually being racist in world. Just thinking about just the small little details now that I'm oh, that was not.
I marked them with orange, all the details that are so I've got 3. The one was the thing about the Shu, and then one was the Kirch Southern colonies, which I was we're just chill with that the Kirch have Southern colonies, and you're okay sending your parents to live there. I thought they belonged to Ravka, and I was still side-eyeing that. I remember I brought it up when we talked about that book. But now I'm just oh my God, this is even worse. So it's not just Ravka who's a colonial power. It's also Ketterdam. And then what was the third racism point? Let me find out. You guys can talk while I figure that out.
I wanted like more of the Zoya being Suli stuff. Like it felt like it was like thrown in very much at the end, and there were these like nuggets that just didn't make sense at the beginning, like how the Suli woman said something to her and she like freaked out, and I just didn't think that that storyline, I think it had so much more potential if it had been given more like time and care. And as it was like not enough, I thought, because it was like a
Also-
really compelling idea.
Yeah, like was that hinted in the first book? I'm just wondering if this is something that was added because of the show casting, because the book came out around the time.
I think it
No,
her skin is like
not.
described as like darker from the beginning, and
Yeah.
Okay, because like that was something like I knew because of the show that she was Sully, but like in the show, it's not a passing situation either. So I wonder how they're gonna change that.
But in the show, they also don't, aside from Asian people, they don't really make
That's
comments
true.
about race. Like
That's
there's Black
true.
people, there's like
I think the art. I think like I don't know if it's official artwork or fan artwork of Zoya has always been of her being darker skinned.
I think that's how they describe her in
yeah.
the early series.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They just
But-
never.
Yeah,
But
to
it's just like
Annie's point.
it's the Sully, like the racism specifically of her being like, I'm concerned that they're not gonna want me to be a queen because I'm Sully. I feel like that world building part was missing, being like, why is she so concerned about that if she's been fine up until this point?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
the fact that like they didn't, or Leigh, like I don't think she wrote a biracial character well. Like she just did a bad job, and like I don't feel like the headspace that she created for Zoya in that like strain of the storyline made sense to me. Really, it felt very, very like vacuous, like surface level. Like I think if you were going to explore her grappling with being biracial and being in like this white country where she can white pass, but it's like very clearly discriminatory against Suli people, and she's part Suli, and like historically what happened in her childhood, like that would be, I don't know, I think with like us seeing into Zoya's brain and like seeing so much of her emotions and like grieving and all these other things, that if like we were doing, like if we were like properly handling the way she's thinking about her identity and like how she presents and like the discriminatory things she's faced her entire life, it wouldn't have been written the way we did it. I think she just did a bad job, unfortunately, with that like piece of the story.
Yeah, I think it's a common thread that Leigh kind of just with racial tension seems to just be like scratching the surface. I do think she gets better as the series progresses, and that if there was ever a way for her to like at this point of her writing level go back and she wrote Shadow and Bone at her current like level, I would be more confident that she would like actually lay in a lot more of the pieces that would make sense. But it does feel like she in like since Six of Crows like plays a lot of like catch up in terms of like now into adding things that should like help make sense for and like have larger messages about our society that maybe didn't have that, like I think are all just built on like a little bit more shaky foundation from the beginning of the books, which is why it makes it still feel uncomfortable now. It's like this is good, but also it's like even with the Shuhan stuff, it's like, oh, this is like I thought it was good, but also it's like I wish I had this 4 books ago, like and the same thing with the Suli storyline as well. So
yeah, I feel like part of it for me is like what's the reasoning behind this specific racism against the Sully people? Like, why are the Ravkans racist toward them specifically, despite them just like being on Ravka before the Ravkans got there, which was something that was briefly mentioned. It was like, I just feel like it was like you were trying to do something with that. You were trying to like sort of introduce this, but you didn't lay the groundwork properly enough or like actually dive into it. So it just felt like you said like very surface level, and like that was like it took me out of the story for a minute.
Well, I think it's like fantasy Russia, right? And so it's like
true. But what about for people like me who know zero things about Russia?
But what I mean is like, especially when I think back to that scene with Alina and Mal in the like, because in that one it's a lot more fantasy, like the whole idea that they're like what is it? God, when you see into the future with the magic ball. I'm missing words in my mouth. Like fortune tellers, right? There we go. That they're fortune tellers, and they're like, it's all like, what's it called? Like kind of Romani stereotypes, kind of like, it's not quite, but that was. Well, I remember when I read the book, then that was the vibe that I got when that scene happened. It's like, oh, you're saying that that's what they are. I see what you're trying to do. But my whole thing with the Suli, with the Shu, with all the racism that happens in these books is that you've already got fantasy racism in the book. Why the hell do we need to add another layer of racism? Because when you mix the fantasy racism and the real racism, it makes a really ugly picture. Because I found the other section that I marked, which was when they're like, what did he say? He says, her mother created a policy of outlawing the experimentation on the Grisha and begun to allow them certain rights in exchange for military or government service. And then Nicola's like, oh, great, like Ravka. And I'm like, how is any of this okay? Like, that they finally have started to give them rights in exchange for military service. And that, the one powerful country that is made up of people of color is like finally starting to give other people, like, I don't like the implications of that. I know the Zemini exist and they're great and we love them.
Listen, I love that they're in the corner being unproblematic and thriving with their economy. I love that. Leave them alone. Don't bring them into this.
I know, but just with the three with Fjerda and Ravka and Shuhan, and the way that they're each problematic in their treatment of Grisha. So you've got the fantasy racism. Why did we have to add another? Like, I don't like that, and it makes me feel very uncomfortable, and I just wish it kind of was not there. Like, I know that maybe she was trying to make like some connections to the real world or whatever, but like, people are smart. They can make that. Well, actually, maybe I shouldn't say.
Honestly, are people smart? That's the real question here. We are smart. We can figure it out.
I just feel like I just don't like the implications of that combination of those two things, because I just think that you already have a lot with the fantasy racism that you need to figure out, that we don't need to add more kinds of racism into the mix.
But I think that's like a weakness in her world building and her writing from like the first series into now. And like, as Dulcie said, certain things have gotten a little better as her writing progressed, but ultimately, like, if you're gonna have fantasy like racism and oppression, and then after the fact try and like add in like commentary on how you accidentally added in real racism, like, it's just messy. It's just messy, and we see it's messy, and it's not good in the books. It's not giving.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to look here to see.
Yeah, I'm like, is there anything else that we missed talking about?
Oh, I wanted to bring something up that we were talking about earlier, and I was going to say something, and then we moved past it. And anyway, when we were talking about the Darkling, I was thinking a lot about how he wants so badly to be a saint, but we really saw in this book and this duology that the like legends that this world has of saints are like kind of based on fact, but are like really not what the original story was, and how the like, I don't know if it's right, but if like the cult of personality, I don't know if that's the right term, but the books really show how like that can be so transformative, and how it's like really created this whole situation for the Grisha, like everything that Nina's doing and Fjerda with like making all of these like miracles happen to create like faith in saints, but it's actually the Grisha. All of that stuff I found to be really interesting commentary on like religion and on like legend and all of the stuff that these people are like so attached to, when really it's the things that they like claim to hate in their lives. I thought that was like, really interesting, and I kind of wish more had been done with it. I think it would have taken away from the plot points that I really enjoyed, but I sort of felt like it was one other thing that Leigh, like one other layer that she was trying to add in, and I found it very interesting. I wish that she had done a little bit more with it with the Darkling, like how you were saying, someone was saying earlier, like, well, these are my followers, they fucking suck. I hate this. Like, I wish that more had been done with that, but I thought it was interesting.
I've always enjoyed that in her writing, that even like as soon as like Alina started being a sun summoner, and then they were like, you know, painting murals and different things of her, and like creating a myth that was larger than Alina the person, that we got to see through her perspective. And I think like Leah's done that throughout the entire series with different characters, and just sort of like showing how like, yeah, that sort of mythicness is like, on one hand is like false, or in a lot of hands it's false, where it's like manipulated both by the people who are at the center of those myths, and also by the people who want to believe in those myths. I like one of the pages that I like revisited in the hour before this chat was when the Darkling goes to the church that was like erected on top of his grandfather's old house, and like that was very interesting. And how there's like a short comment there just about like how the people wanted, like the community ended up coming for Morozova and killing him. But they wanted his image and his something to sort of worship.
Yeah, like that was something from the first series, because like I thought she did it a lot better in the original trilogy with the Apparat using Alina's like mythos to add power to his like own situation, but this time it sort of just felt like a repeat of what like the Apparat's doing the exact same shit that he was doing previously, and like with less teeth. Like he was just getting in the way and being annoying and just skulking in the corner.
Is he dead, by the way? I don't know.
I assumed that when they did like the whole explosion that he died finally.
So the Darkling killed him? No, because he came back.
No, he came to the.
Did I sleep through that?
He came to, and they're picking Zoya to be queen, and then he's trying to be like,
okay, yeah,
he's trying to be like, yeah, you're a bastard, and Nikolai's like, yeah, I am, bitch. What about it?
Yeah, I'm surprised that he didn't go for the Starless. Like he didn't try to get them on.
So that's what I mean, because he said there was a scene when like black stuff came out of his mouth. Does that mean the Darkling killed him? Like I don't. What happened to the Apparat? Like
they just took him away. Like
so they like
arrested him.
Yeah, like he's vibing somewhere.
That's it.
Okay. Waiting for his third round of coming back and finding a new saint to get behind.
Kill him. I mean, I know they're like, oh, we're gonna make a martyr. Just disappear him.
It was like kind of interesting that even though it is like I can see what you're saying, Paige, about it being a repeat. I still liked it, but it was also kind of interesting the like, who is the right person when you have these two different warring religions. Like that part I really enjoyed. You know, that religious trauma life, when you have like different like factions, different denominations that all believe that they're the right way and like you're not the right way, and you have like that kind of commentary, which was really interesting to me. Like the Apparat, even though he didn't have teeth, it was more like he was trying to hold on to the power that he had because there was this new faction, and like that kind of journey I enjoyed.
I'm surprised that the Feardens didn't kill him, honestly. I was very like, why is he in Fearda? Like he supports the Saints. That is literally his job, is to like support.
I kind of like that because it kind of highlights the hypocrisy of both of these factions.
The
that
enemy
are like,
of
we're
my
doing
enemy
this,
is my friend.
We're doing this for religion and because of our beliefs. Meanwhile, they're like they're using that as their like, you know, platform, and then they're going and like hanging out with people who believe the exact opposite of what you believe.
But, like, also, what were the Feardens' plans? Because they have the fake Lannister person, right? I'm just trying to figure out the politics of the politicking that is happening.
Well, he's actually a real Lannister.
Okay, they have the real Lannister that they want to like put on the throne. Why not just completely take over Ravka at that point?
I think they wanted to do it by force and legally. Like both.
But also they probably don't want the responsibility of taking care of Ravka. They just want to kill all the Grisha for some reason. So
yeah,
they're
like,
like, okay, we'll put a fake prince to take care of the actual Ravkan issues. Meanwhile, we're just gonna keep doing our like
that seems
nefarious
like a big
plots.
dummy move on my part. Like in my head, like that just seems like a big dummy move, because what if that guy eventually, like 3 generations down, they're like, fuck Fjerda, we're gonna fight again. Like it just seems like a risk not worth taking when
This
you could
is
probably
why the
put somebody
fantasy
in.
racism pieces also doesn't make sense. I'm like, this is the thing that you believe. You're like, we hate all of these witches. We're gonna kill them all, and yet, like, I don't know. This, you guys can't make me think about this too much, because I don't want to. I don't want to think about it too
You just have
much.
to think about Tree Darkling,
Tree
Dragon Zoya. That's it.
Well, like,
Had empty, no thoughts except those.
That's what I wanted to bring up on the app rap front, was that, like, I love that scene where Zoya finally becomes a dragon, because I was like, how is she gonna do it? She has to become, like, go full dragon. I was like, is it gonna be like for Nikolai, like she's gonna have to save him? And then she went and like saved Nina, and it's like, yes, like
she's like, Nina's not my friend, but I'm gonna go save her. Like, girl, just admit that you like your friends.
I know.
Like,
yeah, she won't admit it, but she'll save
like,
you.
no,
But she won't
I
say
don't like
I love
any
you
of
after.
you.
Like,
I will plant trees and flowers for you when you die, but I never liked you.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I mean,
that's why I love Zoya. I'm like, I get it.
we can talk all about all of the weaknesses, which are very valid, but Leigh is so strong at characters. We care so much about these characters. Like, that's why I just like really loved it, because I am very much like, let me not think about the plot, only characters, only their journey. And like,
that's what I mean. If I'm just thinking about, like, you know, if I literally just think about Zoya and Nikolai, I'm happy. I'm like blissful. I'm like, everything was great. I loved it. Everything about the storyline was perfect. Nothing, I would not change anything about that part. Like, I loved their love story. It was amazing. Like, they were both so stupid and like being so like, oh, when she let the Darkling escape, and her first thought, like after she was like getting over the PTSD part of it, was like, oh, Nikolai's gonna be mad at me. I'm like, girl, do you know? Do you know Nikolai at all? Like, he's just gonna want to make sure you're alive. Like, he does not care.
I love that scene of them after the heist with the two of them, and he's just like, he's basically like, I wish you could be my queen.
The height of romance, brooding in a weird container somewhere. I'm like, yes, this is what I want for like
in
my
an
love life.
container, and he's like lying on the floor being like, I love you. I'm like, yes.
I love that scene so much from the beginning, before he even got to the confession part, when he was just brooding. I'm like, yeah, I'm into this whole vibe of like, everything sucks. I didn't get enough titanium for my weapons. I'm gonna die, and the girl I like doesn't even like me back.
Listen, him simping over the ribbon being a through point the entire book. So when he gives her the little gift wrapped in the ribbon, I was like, sir, you need to stop.
Yeah. He was not even
the ribbon page.
This is why I was like, girl, what do you mean you don't know if Nikolai likes you? Like, man, all he's done for 2 books is pine over you. Like, he's like, oh, I should worry about the letters I have to write. Where's Zoya going? To see her secret boyfriend in the garden? I'm gonna go see what she's doing. I'm like, buddy, write your letters.
Also, what did we think about that brief scene between Nikolai and Tolia, where Nikolai asked Tolia if he was in love with Alina? Because I never got that vibe from them.
That
was like, what
so
is happening?
That was so weird. I'm
okay.
like, are we just trying to like match, like be like
everyone was in love with Alina? Everyone.
Yeah, like that. I don't know. That was bizarre.
I thought that was bizarre. I was like, I never got that vibe that he was like anything other than just
we didn't get that vibe, but at the same time, we're in Alina's head, who is clueless about literally everything. So it's one of those things where, like, is it a retcon? Kind of. Not really retcon, but like, is it something that like we never would have gotten from the original series? Yes. Is it also something that Alina never would have gotten from in the original series? Also, yes.
Yeah, I think it was. Sorry, go ahead, Dulcie. I was just gonna say, I think. I just think it was him, Nikolai, trying to matchmake, and he's like, who could Tolia? Because he was going through everyone that he knows and who he's matchmaking. Like, and then he was like, your sister has a wife. What about you? Sorry, go ahead, Dulcie. You were gonna say.
No, that's a great point. I was just gonna bring up that I love when after the Darkling has stabbed Mal and Alina's hands and has come back. And Alina and Mal are like, we're gonna go back to Karamzin, just gonna chill, but also like, if like, you know where to find us if you need us. And Alina's like, she was like, I was a soldier before I was a sun summoner. I can pick up a rifle. And I was like, you were a map maker, Miss Alina. You were not a great soldier. That's like gonna like turn the tides of this war with your rifle. Like,
She barely
I love
survived
you, but, like,
that entire trilogy.
I know, she's
even
like
with
not.
powers.
She was not known as a great soldier, but like bless her heart, like she's like, I'm ready.
She's
like
dying. Well, that's Alina though. Like she always like bites off way more than she can chew. She's
And
like,
it's always like
Absolutely.
begrudging. She's like, I'm gonna do this because this is right. This is what I need to do. And we're like, no, Alina, just go home. Just go to the kids. Bye. Like, you don't need to be part of this. We'll see you in a bit, I'm sure.
I did. There was a line that she said something, and I'm like, that is the part of Alina's humor that I like. It was so dry. I need to find. I probably marked it, but
It
there's
was
too many tabs.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about, but I can't think of exactly what it is. But
It was just really good, and I was just like, Alina, this is why I even though you frustrate me to no end, I do love you.
I loved the bit at the end where Inez is like, is that? And Nicola's like, no, over here. We're
Nope.
going over here now. Bye-bye.
Some random lady. Let's go talk to my sister now.
Which
Also,
now
I'm
is
sure
not
that they
canon
only-
because of the show, because Alina knows.
Mhm.
Yeah. I felt it was unfair they gave us 3 seconds of Inej. I was like, really? That's it?
I cried.
like
I won't lie. I
emotion.
cried. As soon as I saw
Yeah.
that she was at the fucking wedding, I was like, tears. That's so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, we could have had more. I could have done with more.
Okay,
did
but
you guys
Kaz
think
doing
about-
it because of Inej, doing the entire thing because it was for Inej. What do you think Kaz is gonna? What do you think the plot's gonna be of that next book? That I'm sorry, the way she fucking wrote the end of that book. There's no way she's not writing another Six of Crows.
She's writing another like
book.
full series. Full
Yeah.
series.
I think my prediction is that it's
Oh,
gonna
your
be like
face.
it's gonna be like Jenya, Zoya, and then like Alina with her rifle on some kind of road trip
Girls trip.
hunt. Basically a road trip hunt, like kind of quest, but like girl boss and maybe Inej somewhere in there. Like, and they have to give us Inej and Kaz. Like, that's
Yeah.
definitely where I thought the story was gonna go after Cricket Kingdom, and then they didn't give it to us. They gave us Nina instead, which is also good. But like, Inej is like, you know,
I
just
kind of like.
killing it on this open seas, and I want to know
Yeah.
more.
yeah, same.
I want Inej and Nikolai to be like sea pirate besties.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
that's, I'm totally into that. Like I
Sea
could also
pirate
read that book.
Storyline now.
Like I could read that book too. Platonic sea pirate friends who then go home to their begrudging lovers. Like, it's great.
LOL. Maybe they'll end up going to like one of the other countries finally for like they need to find the heart of Sankt, whatever the fuck his name is, out something that begins with A. So
Felix.
maybe we will get, instead of like a road trip, it's a sea trip. The two besties on a ship together going to get this heart.
It's
It's gonna be the
hilarious.
best double date ever. Kaz and Zoya are gonna have the worst time.
Yes.
Oh, I found the line that Alina said. So at the very end, when they were like, Nikolai still hasn't asked me to marry him. When Zoya was complaining about that, and Jenny was like, well, he hasn't had much luck with proposals. And Alina was like, well, maybe if he offered me a kingdom instead of just some jewel. I was like, Alina, I miss you. I do. It was kind of funny. I had a question because I was just looking at my tabs. So in one of the Darkling's chapters, when he's like thinking about his past and his life, he mentions his half sister, who we have never met.
I was also so confused by that. I was like, who the fuck is that? Who?
He's like
who?
my half sister, who was also a legend and passed into sainthood. I'm like, who? Who is his half
And just-
sister?
Yeah.
Oh wait,
Is Elizabeth
No,
his
never mind.
sister? No.
I don't
No.
think so. Is
his
she?
mom's sister was the
His
one that
mom's-
got killed.
Yeah.
So
that's what I was.
she got sainted?
But he said
No, but he said Elizabeth. Was Elizabeth his sister?
he was talking about himself and how he'd met his half sister, who had herself passed into legend and sainthood, and he searched the world for his mother's other children. I'm like, who?
That was weird.
Oh,
His mother's other children, like that threw me off.
Yeah, like page 439 if you have the book
I'll
near
put it
you.
out here.
No,
Doing
I
the
do
most.
vividly remember like that, and I was very
I was
confused. But
like-
also, he also mentioned like all the names he had in the past, and he included Kiergan, which we know from the show, like he's a
Yeah.
Kiergan. So I'm like, so is the Kiergan that we know now related to the Dark? Like, did he have a kid when he was a Kiergan, and now like that's
Oh,
the like?
God.
I'm like, does he just have like, are all everybody related now? Like they're all just related. Ravka related.
I'm just like, did I miss this sister piece at some point? Because I don't think I did, but maybe I did.
There was,
Like,
that part definitely flew over my head, so I don't remember
Okay.
it. But
I was just very confused.
it reminded me that I thought Bagra was maybe gonna make an appearance in this, because I
Mhm.
always thought that she like didn't quite die because I didn't see a body. Like, you know, if I don't see a body, I don't think you're dead in fantasy.
It's a good
And
rule.
there was like a throwaway line in King of Scars about like what like a happening.
It was
that
hinted in this
felt
book
like
too.
Bagra.
Yeah, they
It was
hinted at
hinted like there's
Yeah.
a woman in the mountains that like comes
Okay,
and feels
yeah.
the heat and stuff. So like,
And he-
So
And the
is
Darkling
next
also says, like, he was like, when they're like being like, you killed your own mom, like you like ripped her eyes out, all this stuff. He's like, how do you know she's dead? Like he says something being like, you think I could kill her power? Like, because he's always talking about how like powerful like him, his mom, and like these like high level god tier Grisha are like these like
So that's the next book. It's Sea Pirate Besties have to go find Bagra to help them do
Bagra
something.
definitely knows where that fucking heart is. Bagra is
Yeah.
the person who's gonna come and help them this time. She's gonna be like, I need to give my son peace. Let's go get this heart to let him die. Here we go.
Okay,
We're in the book.
I Googled it. Darkling's sister. Apparently her name is Ula. I don't know who this lady is, but she is the half-sister of the Darkling via their late mother, also known as Sancta Ursula of the Waves.
I'm sorry, where was this information? In any
I
of the
have
books that we've
no
read all the
idea.
books, guys.
This might
The only
be-
one we haven't read was the
Wait,
Little Saint.
this is the anthology, maybe
Is
the
this
Lives of
in
Saints?
Lives of Saints? I
Maybe.
wonder. I think
The name sounds
hold on.
familiar.
I'm gonna go look at Lives of Saints and
Yeah.
see if the Darkling is mentioned because I feel like I remember him being in one of the books, and that might be where it's from.
Yeah, maybe but it was never mentioned in any
Marina's
of
In
Black
universe,
Second.
yeah.
He's
the
getting
main books, and it was so confusing to me. I literally spent trying to rack my brains, like maybe I just missed it. And I thought Elizaveta, or whatever her name was, but she was described as more like his lover at some point than his sister, which weirded me out a little bit. That I might have misread that. I was like, I thought, because she hated Alina. I was like, maybe it was like I don't know. It was very strange. And apparently Bagra had a bunch of children, and I'm like, so why does she care so much about this one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
seems
that's-
kinda whack Bagra.
Like,
that you
if
don't
you
have,
had a
like,
bunch
one
of
child
children.
hero.
We know who the
Oh.
favorite was, I guess.
all right, Maureen's gonna
doing
give
live
us-
research.
It took me a minute to find the book because it's When Water Sang Fire. Is that it?
I also really didn't like the anthology because it just felt like it was regular fairy tales but set in like the Grishaverse like world building versus like completely new stories. It was like stories that were very familiar but with a Grisha twist, which was like
Okay, yes. Oh no, yes, I do remember this. So his half sister is a mermaid, and then she goes to land, and I'm pretty sure she
Little Mermaid.
I'm pretty sure she meets like well, the Little Mermaid was like the other person in the story. But I'm pretty sure she meets like the Darkling and is like and he tells her like, oh, we're related. I gotta find it.
That was the story that specifically I was like, this is literally just the Little Mermaid. And I got very annoyed.
It's just, I just felt like that was such a weird throw. I mean, I guess but she does this a lot. Leigh does this. She like makes throwaway comments to other books. It's just that this is the one book that I didn't read. So I was just like, I have no idea what you're talking about here. But which, again, like, so I don't care how many times people try to say you can read these books as on their own. I'm like, no, you can't. You need to know the whole thing.
Well, she's not assuming everyone's going to look into the throwaway lines that they say. We're like,
I
no.
just get really confused, and I need things to make sense.
I definitely think for King of Scars, you need to have read both series before, but you could enter at Six of Crows and then go back if you wanted to, if you really wanted to.
Yes, fair.
I'm trying to find the exact moment when she... Oh, wait, here we go. Apparently Bagra left her to the waves.
Lol.
So she doesn't have a
That's
favorite
rough.
child.
This is the, like, where is it? Her mother, or the witch mother she'd never known, the mother who had left her to the mercy of the waves. Bagra really said, let me just throw you in the ocean.
Yeah, so she had a favorite child. She's like, if
But
you
I'm
can't
pretty
summon
sure-
the darkness.
I remember, like,
bye.
it was like she met somebody and they had, like, the Darkling's eyes. Like, I remember, like, talking, like, he's not specifically mentioned.
That's hilarious. I kind of love that that's who Bagra is, though. That she's like, if you can summon the darkness like me, you got to stay. If not, bye. To the waves you go.
Oh, here it is. Her brother. Got it. I found it. And he also mentions the sea whip, the, like, I think that thing. So here we go.
No,
Sorry,
wait, his
I gotta-
sister is some sea witch, and she didn't help him find the sea whip?
She died.
Oh, well, that would
She became the thing. She died.
Yeah, all the sea
Also,
stories
she
are about the
literally
saints who
be
died.
named Ursula and be the Sea Witch and Little Mermaid. This is wild. There's copyright.
It wasn't
Okay.
Ursula, it was like Ursa or something. It's like very close though. It's very, very close.
I mean, I think it's public domain now at this point.
Yeah, it was like the
Right?
Hans Christian, like the
Wow.
old one where like everyone dies, not the Disney.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this guy is an apprentice.
Of what?
I think it's the Darkling that he was an apprentice. I don't know. It's like he left, and then she's like different from all the other
Not
mermaids.
like other
She has like a
mermaids.
different voice, and it's a
get
voice
out.
that like is better on land than it is as a mermaid because she's meant to be on land. Da, 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 da. And he like tells her that she's not like the others, and then he says, I remember you. She was born on land. Our mother, took up the bell your father had given her and went to the shore, rang it twice, and then he took her down to the water.
I think the important thing to take from this story is that Bagra boned a merman. That's it. That's all we need.
He also says she isn't one for sentiment about Bagra, which is
The important thing is Bagra can pull a mermaid.
That's a lot because sis has got children elsewhere that we don't know about. So
Honestly, her and her son.
So good.
I love it.
and he tries to get her to go with him to be like, you don't have to go back to the sea, come with me. And then she's like, nah. Says, they say the sea whip roams these waters. He came to see the ice dragon for himself, and he came to find her so that she would like help him find this thing.
So he's been using that line for
And
a
he
long
tells
time.
and he tells her how to like fix something, whatever's happening that's going wrong in the story. And he's like, oh, you can use blood magic, and he's the reason that she dies, I'm pretty sure, because she does the thing that like he tells her
my
to
gosh.
do,
she
and
said, oh,
yeah,
he's like, like that tracks.
her brother
actually.
bends and whispered
Yeah.
the spell. Yeah, because I think she's like in love with a prince, and so is her friend.
Yeah.
They're in love with two different people. It's a wild time. It's like the Little Mermaid, but like darker.
Got it.
And also, it would be like if the Little Mermaid, if Ursula was friends with Ariel, like
With
they were
Ariel.
BFFs and they went to land together.
I love that
This
it's
is all.
very. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say this is all reminding me of a moment in the first trilogy when someone asks about who is the Darkling's dad, and doesn't Bagra say something about like getting with a lot of powerful people?
She's like, he's some dude.
yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that was like prefacing this in saying like she was just trying to like bang some powerful people to see if she could make a powerful child.
Honestly.
And if you weren't, she throw you to the sea. Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, now we know that's his half sister. I couldn't find the line that like I think what color is his eyes? I think like she talks about like the color of his
Green?
eyes. In like that story with
Maureen,
Leigh, I
how
couldn't
did you
remember.
miss that his eyes are gray? The whole 3 books in the first trilogy. We got a description of
You
his
know I
eyes.
don't care that much about the Darkling as
Fair.
a love interest.
Yeah.
Okay, fair. But Alina talks about his eyes so fucking much. We literally get. I remember I
I
started
have
counting at
slept
some
since
point.
then. I have slept since then. It's been months since I
Yeah.
reread those.
That's fair. That's fair. It's so funny. But like, sorry, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh well. Oh no, the line about you and I are gonna change the world that he's gonna be trying on everyone apparently since forever.
Okay, Hannah, would that line not work on you? He was just looking for someone to finally accept who wanted the ambitious power, okay? He was testing, he was looking.
Yeah.
Like, you and I are the same. I know you.
Yeah, I know. But like it would have to be if Yuri was saying that line to me, probably not. But if it was Ben Barnes as the Darkling, yes. Which brings me okay, so a question. How do we feel like about how is this gonna get adapted to
I'd be
screen?
impressed if Nikolai I'd be impressed if Netflix made it that far.
That's
like
true.
to get to this part in the like I am at least hoping for the end of Six of Crows, like that duology. Like that would be about 5 seasons, maybe. I could not see them getting as far as the King of Scars seasons, as much as I would love it.
But if they mix everything up, which they do, they could jam it all into 5 seasons.
I feel like it gets too complicated toward the end though. Like all of the politics that are happening, like it would be,
I don't think
have
we
to
have the
be really,
budget
really
to make
massive.
Sawyer a dragon, to be honest.
Also true. We're not on Game of Thrones level budgeting, unfortunately.
What if
That's true.
maybe I'm just optimistic? I'm like, what if we get there? Like,
I would really like us to get there because here's the thing: the Darkling in the TV show and the Darkling in this book are. I know there's a lot that happens between these 2 points, but I'm like they're 2 different people in my mind. Like I cannot see Ben. Like when I was reading this, I could not picture Ben Barnes as the Darkling at all because I was laughing at most of his chapters. I was like, this is hilarious.
To be fair, he took the monk's body, so
That's true. It would be someone else probably. You're right. Which might help.
I think like when they get to this point is when we would get a musical episode with Ben Barnes and
a musical episode with the Darkling going like, these are my saints.
Yeah.
Yes, or these are my like worshippers, whatever they're called. Like,
yeah,
I want it. Anais is like, nope, don't do it. I would live for that musical episode. I love that stuff.
yes.
Okay, I have a question for everyone to end this off on. Somehow we managed to talk for an hour and a half about this book. What are we reading next? I'm open to suggestions. Let's go. What's the next book for Ben Barnes-Bay's book club? Wow.
Do we need a series that's fully done?
What?
Do we need a series that's complete so that we like go again?
I would say yes, but also if we're keeping on the Ben Barnes-Bay's book club, should we do Chronicles of Narnia?
Oh my god.
I love Chronicles of Narnia. Listen,
I've never read those books.
I love fake religion. I do not like real.
It is very real religious allegory.
I just don't think I can do. My suggestion that I made a long time ago, I don't know if it was just to you, Paige, or to the group, is I think we should pick books that aren't necessarily about Ben Barnes, but then we find the Ben Barnes in the book. Like we cast the Ben Barnes,
okay,
and then one day
I'm down for that.
Yeah,
we are manifesting his next series.
This is what happened with this is what happened with the Darkling. We can do it. We can start here and then go from there.
Fair.
I don't know if there's room for Ben Barnes in this, but I just figured Hannah would enjoy that I just started reading the Witcher books.
That was going to be my other suggestion, was the Witcher books,
Okay.
because I know people who like the series despite the misogyny that is heavily rampant.
I could read it with you guys. I could not read it on my own.
That's the thing, is like the only reason I would read that series is if I was reading it with other people.
Yeah. If I had a chance to come make fun of it, I would read it, but just on my own.
Fair.
I'm wary of that because I don't want to taint the TV show.
Also fair.
I love the show so much that I'm like, do I want to but I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing actually. So if we decide that that's what we want.
And then
could
you
do
have an
that.
excuse to watch the show for the 50th time because we can discuss
I need
it.
an excuse. Excuse me. I do not need an excuse. If I'm having a less than optimal day, I feel bad today. I'm gonna watch The Witcher.
Of all the shows
Basically.
to be a comfort show.
Oh, I have like 5 comfort shows and I rotate between them. So yeah. I also would love to kind of try another YA fantasy, but I don't know which one. I have a list of them that I want to read. I could go into my Goodreads list and pull something from there. We could also try an adult fantasy. Those are longer though, so
we will figure something out. Just leave all. If anybody watching has suggestions as well, leave them so that I can tell these people what the suggestions
What's
are.
that one that they're making into a show that has like 20 books? It's called like Wheel of Time or something.
Yes, I have not read that, but yes, it is a show that people are very excited about.
I don't know much about it other than they were like legitimately like 20 books, and it's adult fantasy.
yeah, but it's written by a man.
It's what?
Okay, I should tell you
Written
guys,
by
I
a
don't like
man.
reading fantasy written by men.
Oh,
Oh my god. Yeah.
Because I'm just like, y'all are boring for the most part. Not
Fair.
always. I should say that. I would do it with you guys, not on my own, but with you guys I would. Yeah. Is there anything we can discuss this later and figure that out? But is there anything else that anybody wanted to talk about either the book, this one, the trilogy, the whole series? How do we feel at the end of like supposedly the last book of this Grishaverse, supposedly?
Unsatisfied by the ending. But that is just normal for me with these books. So I'm excited to see the adaptation continue. I'm very excited for future seasons. Can't wait for us. We'll all get together. We'll have a little convo about the series every time they come out. But
Yes.
yeah.
I
No,
actually
party watching the show was like,
yeah, I actually am not feeling, I mean, despite what my general commentary might be like, I actually am pretty satisfied with the way that it ended, basically because my favorite characters got what I wanted them to get. I was like, as long as the people that I care about, except for David, it's fine though. I can grieve.
I'd be a lot more sad if there wasn't the adaptation, but because I know that there's like guaranteed more good content coming, I feel fine.
Yeah. Dulcie, Maureen, Kira.
I'm excited for the adaptation too.
Same.
Same with Annie. Like, I think it's nice to know that content is coming.
Yes. And especially because I really enjoyed the first season of Shadow and Bone, I'm excited to see where it could go and how it could be even better, because I mean, with all of the issues that were in the show, like seeing how the crows were incorporated and how well that was done, I'm like, I am excited for the future.
Yeah.
me too. I'm really excited for the next season to come and to finally meet Nikolai, because I feel like he is primed to come.
Who's it gonna be?
I'm sorry, I have to go.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Okay.
Fair. It has been an
Thank
hour and
you.
a half. Thank you to everyone who watched us for all. God, how many live shows has it been? So many, like seven live shows.
6?
8.
I don't know.
3 plus 2.
We can do
Plus
math.
2 plus the show. So 8.
Right, 8.
8 seasons. I was about to say seasons. 8 live shows. Wow, we're really ending on a strong note. Thank you guys for
We can do
joining us
math.
for this. And we will be back at some point once we figure out what we're gonna collectively read together next.
Yes.
If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. But I'm gonna let everybody go now because somehow it's been an hour and a half. Goodbye, guys.
Bye.